Welcome to Virtual STEM Club Littles Edition, Melting Snowmen. My name is Miss Eileen and I am so excited to have you here with me today. You should have already picked up your take and make bag here at the library when you registered. This is going to have the supplies that you need to put your experiment together. Caregivers, you are going to be assisting your little one throughout the experiment today, so make sure that you are on hand to help. You're going to need a few things from home that we did not include in your take and make bag. You're going to need something to stir your cocoa powder, like a spoon. I'm using a fork, a writing utensil, and then some paper towel. And in a little while, we're going to need some water, but I'll go more in detail about that as we get into our instructions. In just a minute, I'm going to go over everything that you got in your take and make bag, and then we're going to set up our experiment and start going through the step-by-steps to complete it. All right, are you ready to get started? Let's get to it. So what you see here on the table in front of me is everything that is in your take and make bag. So you should have a little worksheet, a black marker, 3 cups, 2 bags of marshmallows, 1 with big ones and 1 with little ones, and then 3 packets of hot cocoa. And caregivers, again, you're going to want to grab some paper towel, something to stir our cocoa with, and another writing utensil, because you might need that a little bit later when we start working on the worksheet. And that's a writing utensil for your little, if they can write. Otherwise, you can help them fill that worksheet out as we go. So, this experiment is all about learning what happens when we put the same thing in cold water, warm water, and hot water. So we're going to see what happens when we put a solid object into something hot, warm, and cold. So to start our experiment, we're going to go ahead and set most of this aside. So I just want to have the worksheet in front of us. And the worksheet says, here at the top, Melted Snowmen Hot Cocoa Experiment. And caregivers, as you fill this out, please feel free to pause the video as we go through the experiment and take your time in talking with your little and helping them kind of explore these questions and come up with some answers for the top part. And then at the bottom, we have the data portion, and that's where we're going to write down what we actually see with our eyes when we do the experiment. And then we have 2 more questions at the bottom when we're all done. So you can grab that writing utensil, again, either a writing utensil for your little if they can write, otherwise if you can help them with this part. So the first thing that we're going to do before we do anything with our experiment is we're going to write down a hypothesis or a guess as to what is going to happen. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take those 3 cups that we have, and we're going to put cold water into one of them, warm water into another, and hot water into the last one. And then we're going to mix our hot cocoa powder in them, and then we're going to put 1 big marshmallow and 1 little marshmallow in each cup. And we're going to see which one melts the fastest. And so what you're going to write for what is your hypothesis is you're going to write what temperature cocoa will melt the marshmallows the fastest. Is it going to be the cold water, the warm water, or the hot water? So here's where you're probably going to want to pause the video and talk a little bit about what your guess is as to which temperature cocoa is going to melt our marshmallows the fastest. Welcome back. I hope that you did a good job at talking with your caregiver and coming up with your hypotheses or your guess as to which of our cocos is going to melt our marshmallows the fastest. Now, the next step in our experiment is actually setting up our items in front of us. So before we can start collecting any data, which that data is what we're gonna do while we watch the marshmallows in our 3 temperatures of cocoa. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set our worksheet aside and go ahead and grab your 3 styrofoam cups and then your black marker. So the first thing that we wanna do before we start making our cocoa is we wanna write on the cups cold, warm, and hot. And littles, if you can write, I would love to have you write those words on the cups yourself. Otherwise, caregivers, if you can help your little with this part. So I'm gonna take my first cup and I'm gonna write the word cold. And that's spelled C-O-L-D. So this is gonna be my cup for cold cocoa. My cold water is gonna go in there. And then my second cup is gonna have the word warm written on it. And warm is spelled W-A-R-M. So there, my second cup says warm. And then my third cup is gonna be for the hot cocoa. So we're gonna write the word hot on the side, which is spelled H-O-T. So there is the word hot written on my third cup. And then I'm gonna put the cap on my marker and set that aside. And now what we wanna do is we wanna fill our cups with water and make our cocos. So I am gonna actually step away and get cold water in my cup that says cold, warm water in my cup that says warm, and hot water in my cup that says hot. And once I have that water, I'll be back to show you the next steps in our experiment. All right, so I'm back again and I have my cold water, my warm water, and my hot water. And the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix 1 packet of cocoa into each of my cups. So I'm gonna use my stirring device, which in this case, again, I have a fork, but you can use a spoon. I'm definitely making a little bit of a mess here, so be prepared. All right, so now we're gonna stir all our cocoa mix together with our water. And this is another step where, as you're doing it, you might need to pause the video to finish. I wanna make sure you do a really good job stirring all of your cocoa powder in all 3 of your cups. So I'm just stirring, 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 and I'm going back to my first cup now, and I'm gonna stir that one a little bit more. Then I'm gonna do my warm one and my hot one. Okay, so my cocoa cups are ready. I'm go ahead and wipe some of that to the side. So pull these a little bit closer. So now if we pull our worksheet back out, our data section here is what we're gonna do next. And so we have big and small, and that matches our big marshmallows and our small marshmallows. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour those marshmallows onto that paper towel. Mine are a little bit, my big ones are a little bit stuck together. That's okay. I'm just gonna pull them apart. Yours might also be a little bit stuck together, and that's okay. You can just kind of pull them apart with your fingers. And then I'm gonna open my little ones and dump those out. Okay, now before we get to our experiment, this is a science project where we're kind of playing with our food. We don't normally want to play with our food, but in this case, we're having a little bit of fun. And so what you can do here is you can take a few minutes and you can build some snowmen out of your marshmallows. You can stack the big ones, you can stick the little ones onto the big ones. So pause the video again and take just a few minutes to go ahead and play with your marshmallows. And then when you're done, go ahead and resume the video and you can see what we're gonna do to start our actual experiment. All right, hopefully you had some fun building some little snowmen with your marshmallows. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get back to our experiment. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a big marshmallow and a little marshmallow into each of our cups. So just one of each. And we're gonna watch really carefully to see which one melts the fastest and which one melts the slowest. And caregivers and littles, if you want to do this part together, you want to do it as quickly at the same time as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and count out 3 of my big marshmallows and 3 of my little marshmallows. So I have 3 and 3, and I'm going to put 1 of each size in each cup. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. 1 big one, 1 little one, 1 big one, 1 little one, 1 big one, and 1 little one. And now you're gonna sit and you're gonna watch with your eyes and you're gonna see which one melts the fastest and which one melts the slowest. And then you are gonna mark on your sheet what you see as you sit here and watch. And you can talk about what you see. You can start to see maybe one of them melting, maybe one of them isn't melting at all. You could try to poke them a little bit with your spoon and see, are they getting soft? Are they getting smaller? You can kind of turn them around. What are you noticing when you look at your marshmallows? And this does take a few minutes to kind of work its magic or have the science happen here. But as you're watching, you should start to notice that one of them is starting to melt. So go ahead and sit and watch your cups and start to kind of make some notes on your data part of your worksheet about what you are seeing with your eyes as you're looking at all 3 of your cups. So I'm going to be back in a few minutes to talk about what we find out about which of these melts the fastest and which of these melts the slowest. So I have given my marshmallows about 5 minutes in their cups to see which one is melting the fastest and which one is melting the slowest. So the final part of our experiment is answering those 2 questions at the bottom. So with our eyes, we should have observed that one of these cups was melting the marshmallows the fastest. Which one did you notice was melting them the fastest? The hot cocoa cup, that's correct. Now, which one did you notice was melting the snowmen the slowest? Was it the warm cocoa cup or the cold cocoa cup? The cold cocoa cup is correct. And what we are exploring here is watching something go from a solid into a liquid. So the marshmallows that we had in our bags were a solid. And as they melt, they start to disappear into our cocoa and become a liquid. Now, why is that? So the science behind that is that when the marshmallows are in their solid state and they look like this before we put them in our cocoa, they're at room temperature. So they're not hot, they're not cold, they're just at room temperature. And everything has molecules. And so in this case, the molecules in our solid state marshmallows are packed really tightly together. But when you add heat to them, those molecules get really, really excited and they start to move around a bunch. And when you put them in the hot water, the hot water molecules are moving so fast that they start to kind of loosen the molecules in our marshmallows. And so when those loosen, they give more room for things to move around. And that's why when we put our solid marshmallows into our hot water, they start to melt and go from a solid to a liquid. And eventually they melt completely into the hot cocoa. Thank you all so much for joining me today for Virtual STEM Club Littles Edition Melting Snowmen. I hope you had as much fun as I did taking a guess at which of our cocos were going to melt our snowmen the fastest and which one was going to melt them the slowest. And I hope you had fun setting up your experiment and then finishing your experiment and finding out if your guess was correct. And even if it wasn't, I hope you still had fun. And my favorite part of this experiment is that now that it's over, we get to drink our hot cocoa. So I hope you enjoy your hot cocoa. And I would love to see any videos or pictures of you completing today's project. You can send those to me here at the library at the email address coming across your screen now. Thank you so much for joining me for Virtual STEM Club Littles Edition. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.